This is Let's Talk Brand and Business, a platform specially curated to host technocrats, leaders, and industry authorities within the marketing, communications, and business community. My name is Shino Ade, your host on this special segment. Joining me today is an industry powerhouse in the media and advertising investment. My guest, as the Executive Director of Media Investment at OMG Wika, he is a leader whose expertise has helped shape high impact strategies for some of the world's biggest brands, driving growth and innovation in the media landscape. With over 2 decades of expertise across media buying, strategic planning, and consumer insights, my guest has navigated the industry through significant transformation from traditional advertising to the dynamic world of digital media. Today, he will share his insights on adapting to changing consumer behaviors, leveraging data for effective media buying, and the future of advertising in the ever-evolving marketplace. Viewers, please join me in welcoming Mr. Yinka Adebayo, Executive Director of Media Investment at OMG Wika. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now let's talk brand and business. You do big things here at OMG Wika, but some critics have alleged that OMG Wika staff, including top executive, take lots of kickbacks from media vendors, ultimately impacting objectivity in media placement. How do you react to these allegations? I mean,
Well, it's an
let me follow
allegation.
through.
No problem. If you are at the top, there's no other person to so thrown at except also at the top. But one of our key cardinal mantra is value, integrity, transparency, and honesty. And I dare say that we've had to even fire some people on the spot if such is found that they are found wanting in the area of kickbacks and all of that. We don't do it. We will never do it. We don't tolerate it. Transparency is a mantra, and we stick to that. And that is why we continue to lead anyway. If you are in the course of doing business, if you get involved in any kickback, quality will be compromised. But most of the things we've touched, most of the things that is showing direction in the industry, if we are compromised in any way, they won't be where they are today. So I think our job speaks for itself. And for us, one of the things we pride ourselves in is that let the voice of your work be louder than the voice of your person. Let the work do the talking. You don't have time. Get the job done and move on.
So you can beat your chest on,
100%. It's not impossible that
integrity
maybe some of the can happen, but where it happens and it's discovered, once it's reported, God bless to where he is today, something that he doesn't tolerate. Neither me or Alaba taking such. And we can beat ourselves anywhere. So if anybody have any problem, we don't. I know it's that say, hey, what's that? No. Done transparently, whatever is agreed with clients is deliver 100%. We don't get involved in such. Check your records right.
Thank you very much for that. Now to some industry discussion. You've been at the forefront of championing innovation within the advertising, media investment industry here in West Africa, and now influencer marketing is everywhere. How has influencer marketing reshaped advertising strategies for younger audience, especially the Gen Zs and millennials? And are these campaign really yielding measurable results for brands, or is just
No. I'll just say, I think for me, it's really the impact of influencers is growing and it will continue to grow. And understandably so, because many of the Gen Zs you talk about, these are guys they are radical in their approach. All they want is just want to see whatever and whoever is trending and they gravitate towards such. And I think from my experience, really, we've seen clearly that influencer marketing, in fact, we discovered this years ago. I recall, Big Brother Nigeria, 8 years ago, no brand in this country wanted to touch that property. That's a classical case of influencer marketing, where you step on a platform and within 1 or 2 weeks, you become a star. And many of these people, there's no brand that we've taken to that platform 8 years down the line that has come back nothing. In fact, one of the brands that we took in there was Minimi. And the first year we took in there 8 years ago, along with Indomie, sold out. So it shows you, because when people love you, see, most of our buying decisions are informed more by emotional consideration rather than rational. If I like you as a person, whatever you do, I want to copy you. And that's the influence of them to say, hey, I love this person, I love the way he plays, and people watch, they keep on. And with social media these days, you can almost track that person on a daily basis. What is he consuming? What kind of music does he love? And many of our Gen Zs, they are even deviating from the norm. So you'll be surprised that many of our kids don't even want to follow the footsteps of their parents anymore. When we are growing up, you look up to dad and mom. But these ones, because dad and mom is doing it, I don't want to. What is trending? That trending thing is what they go after. And who influences or who shapes the trend than the influencers. So that's why you need to key into them. All I always advise people is to say, yes, the influencers have gone to that point by virtue of my passion or by virtue of what they do. But a couple of them still need some cleaning up to do. So meaning that brand should not just engage them, but brand must also be involved in helping them cross the T's and dot the I's so as to clean them up so that as they continue to position their own brand, the brand that they are representing does not get compromised.
When you say cleaning up, what do you mean? Do
When I
you
say
mean in terms of controversies that they have?
Sure, in terms of controversies they get into, in terms of kind of friendship they keep, in terms of association you do, in terms of some things when you are doing, when you are not known, it should certainly be different from what you do when you are known. Some of the things you say when you are not known, because at that time when you say any rubbish thing, most people won't take it up on you. But when you become somebody that is being celebrated, you need to be careful. That's why they say whoever is being watched need not watch anybody. You keep your eyes in the front.
So does that ultimately affect the brands once they get into controversies?
Of course,
because we've seen some of these influencers.
Of course, it will impact on the brand, particularly when they get into negative controversies. Look at what is happening to Puff Daddy recently. A couple of people sign him up with millions and now saying, "Damn, this is a bad brand to be associated with. Drop it." And you can lose it because it's going to cost them a whole lot more. So that's why, as you get into that limelight, you need to be extremely careful. You need to be sure. You need to move carefully. You need to know the kind of things you say, the kind of people you associate with, the kind of companies you keep. And those are things that the influencers need to really be aware and cautious of.
But is this within your control? I'm looking at a case where some of the brands you manage, insist on using maybe a particular influencers and as against your own, professional advice.
In fact, for me, we have a classic like that where one of our clients says they are going to be using portable. But the one is, and the client said, "Look, I love him, even because it's controversial, it's trending." Okay, no problem, but be ready for what we hold you as a brand is to advise you because it builds on us to see what you are not seeing and to see what is now obvious so that when it comes, say, "Hey, why didn't you tell me?" And lo and behold, they say that's the route they want to go. But even in doing that too, it's not impossible that Portable himself is not a bad product because he has some people that really love him. But you equally need to be sure that as he's carrying the brand along, he's representing the brand in the way you want the brand to be represented as a brand custodian. So it happens, but professionally it builds on you to speak up and advise as appropriate and make sure you are monitoring closely.
So it's not just about the eyeballs, with Portable in terms of followership, and
it goes beyond that. Even some of the eyeballs, you see the followership, some of them are following negatively. So you need to be sure of that. It's not all eyeballs that are looking at you that I think it's positive. It's not all the likes that see on social media that actually likes. Some of them are actually dislikes coming in form of like. Some people get so close to you to destroy you. So you need to be conscious.
But it's out of your power to stop the clients from going ahead if they want.
There are some cases where we need to stop, where the client will listen to say, "Hey," because it's superior argument. And we hold it as a responsibility to the client to advise them. It's not for them to either take it or leave it. But for me, I only like a session where it's documented so that when shit is defined, you can always call it up to say, "Hey," before we remind you. And often that the client will up to say, "Hey, and you said this thing." Now it has come. How do we manage it?
But just by way of experience, you've been in this industry for going to 3 decades now. Are there cases where you have to turn down some of some accounts because of this kind of situation where you put up advice and you're not taking it, maybe for personal interest, especially from CMOs?
Yes, I think we've had 1 or 2 cases like that we had to resign an account. I won't mention it, but we resigned the account. In fact, at that period, people thought we were crazy. So say, "This is a juicy account. How can you guys resign?" Yes, we have to because the values are not in tandem. You see, we believe in mutual respect. The truth of the matter is that what I'm bringing to the table, if you can do it yourself, you don't need me. Yeah, if you can do it yourself, you don't need me. So that means because I've succeeded in handing my trap for you to even engage me, except of course there's error of engagement. If there's no error, that means there must be mutual respect. There's something I'll give to you as a client. There's some level of respect you must give to me as the agency too, because we call it a partnership. If you know how to do what I'm doing very well, you probably won't call me. So, but where that respect is getting compromised, where you are not appreciating me for the value, that means there's a disconnect somewhere. And it's better to say, "Hey, rather than rub off negatively on each other, let's just pull back, and all of that. Exactly, we resigned the account. But interestingly, too, after about 2 or 3 years,
They came
the
back.
client still came back into the fold, and then you can now see the level of respect. You see, respect is not what you ask for; it's
It's
what
not
you
right.
earn. Hmm? It's not what you ask for; it's what you earn, and when you truly earn it, even your enemy will say, "Hey, on this particular line, I don't agree with this," but when it comes to this, dock my heart, and that's it.
All right, to some other interesting issues. With content fatigue and ad overload becoming, common, how do you ensure ad remain engaging and effective without overwhelming the consumers? I mean, we see a lot of almost everywhere, especially on digital platform. Everywhere you turn, you see sponsorship ad, you see this, you see. So how do you engage, the consumers so they don't get weary and they don't get, that fatigue that I mean, I'm tired of seeing this brand. You manage many of these top
Yeah, yeah,
brands.
yeah. I think for me, the challenge that is facing brand these days is beyond awareness. It's beyond awareness. People are asking fundamental and critical questions to say, hey, what is the need for us? Meaning brands equally need to rethink their offering. If you like, run 120 sports in a day. If you are not connecting with people emotionally, they are most unlikely to. So, meaning that it goes beyond just awareness. Yes, we know you. The consumers are asking, what is the need for us? Everybody is asked press now. We know what the economic recession is saying. The global recession is there. It's not only peculiar to Nigeria, it's across the globe. Meaning that everybody is saying, look, for you to have a share of my pocket, how well connected to me are you? What are you giving in return? So, meaning clients must be willing to give extra value. I mentioned something about emotional connection earlier.
Yeah.
Consumers are beginning to, how do I experience your brand? What are the key passion points that I have that I see you playing in that league and we can relate? This is not awareness. I know you, not a problem. I've seen you. I know so many other brands like you. But why should that share of my pocket come to you and not to others? Must give in. And I keep on telling people to say, hey, until you build a brand to a level where people ask consumer, why do you buy that brand? They say, I don't know. I just love it. That's the level where they can do that because they've connected with that brand emotionally. So that is that about the issue of advert fatigue. So it's good beyond awareness. It's just a matter of you identify what is the passion point of my consumer and be strategic enough to key into them. If you key into them, they give you that attention. Every all other things can wait. But if you are not keen to their passion point, they just feel 5 seconds, you are not giving them what they want, they move elsewhere. And they are so radical these days, they are almost like they are so evasive because there are so many things struggling for attention. But if you are able to get the attention, hold it by keying it into their key passion point, I think you stand a good chance of holding them for long.
Now, on attention points you mentioned, with the level of attention that the digital platforms are getting now, do you think there's still a future for the traditional media? I mean, you started with the days of TV, TV had print media were very strong. If you're not there, if you're not on TV as a brand, you're not doing anything. But it seems to have changed.
Well, things are changing, but I dare say, fortunately, I
Is there
think
still a future for the
still
traditional
a very strong,
platform?
very good feature. And for me, I think I happen to be one of those who has happened to travel along the two straddle between at least from traditional to digital. Even the digital play will say what is happening. But I just say digital is not how to kill traditional, and it can never kill traditional. Till tomorrow, Super Bowl is still one of the most prized contents. If you are given the option to say, hey, watch it on your phone or watch it live, most people will still want to experience live. EPL is available on both digital. If you had the opportunity of watching it on your phone or watching it on a large screen, many people, that's why you see viewing center is still growing by the day
Yeah.
because that experience nothing can compare to it. But bringing it back home, I think for me, the traditional space, what they now have on is a challenge given to them by digital. You cannot compete, traditional cannot compete with digital when it comes to speed, but they can compete and take ownership when it comes to credibility and quality. I happen to be trained as a journalist. There's what we call investigative journalism. Digital can break the news, but there's always the story behind the story. Who is telling it? So that means the traditional leader have their job cut out for them. Not just breaking the news, the digital will do that, but make sure that that news that you've heard on the digital place, when it comes to traditional, I'm going to give you what you can never get elsewhere. And that is where you can even compare the digital to look back to say, hey, we missed this bits of fact. And that's what most people are looking for. Stories, everybody can just get the news and move on. But when you now know that, hey, there's a platform where you can get the story behind the story. And that's the job for the traditional space, to say, give people value that they cannot get anywhere. And even on digital place, there's so much you can say. Meanwhile, for a special report, a station or a radio can dedicate 30 minutes or even 1 hour to do exposing, but make sure that you're giving people quality, value that they cannot get elsewhere. And that's what keep them glued and say, hey, yes, the news are booking. I know when I turn to social channel. And there's also the challenge of credibility. If I meet you and say, hey, if you come to me to say something has happened, the first thing I'll ask you, where did you get the information? And if you tell me it's on this type, I say, hey, are you sure? But if you tell me, if you mention a particular news channel, I'll say, okay, fine. I think it's credible enough. So the issue of credibility, they still have that. But let's hope and pray they will be able to hold on to it and turn it to advantage so that that credibility does not become an albatross.
But in terms of media place, you can speak for the industry, like I said, because you've been around for a while. For in terms of agency media planning and strategic planning for media placement and the rest, would you advise that more attention should be given to digital when handling accounts for brand, when handling campaigns for brand? Would you advise the agency focus more on digital or still consider the traditional platforms when
Well, I think for me, two things will
campaigning is
happen here.
going
It
on?
depends
Okay.
on the target audience, it depends on the objective that you seek to achieve.
Okay.
But bear in mind the fact that there are some information you give about your brand on digital place, but people will still question it. So many people will still want to subject it to say, hey, is it on social platform? Yeah, digital space can give you instant awareness, instant rush. But where controversy come, people will know. There are some brands you see and you just love the brand and maybe you take it on digital. The question is now, where did you get that information from? And it happens, particularly maybe when there's a problem or when people spin anything negative about the brand. I think a classic for me was when we first launched Kellogg's. We launched Kellogg's in this market, and a multi-million naira factory was actually opened in Lekki. And lo and behold, after launching Kellogg's, somebody went on social media and said, hey, because of course, the way Kellogg's was packaged to be affordable to everybody. Yes, Kellogg's is known to be a very premium brand, very classy, very expensive, but we made it affordable by selling it for as low as even 15 naira. But people say the premium Kellogg's that we know can never go for 15 naira. So they went on social media and spin off a negative one. So the question people are beginning to ask, where did you get the information from? But lo and behold, when we needed to correct that negative impression, we went on the traditional media by doing facility media tour and by showing. So tell me, if you see a multi-million dollar factory set up somewhere, we show you the picture and we show you that it's in Nigeria here. Do we need to set up a multi-million dollar factory to produce sawdust? Oh, so it made enough time. You have to quench that, but we didn't have to wait till that. We had done it. We had done it. It's a complementary role. Digital will play its way in running with it. The traditional will give you the credibility and endorsement, which is still very key.
Now on cross-generational marketing, how do you think media agencies should handle cross-generational marketing, where brand needs to appeal to different range of audience with different consumption, habit and expectation?
Well, I think it's a delicate
Because you have to
balance.
deal with, you just mentioned traditional and digital. So how do you balance?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, but you just need to know how, depending of course on where the pendulum tilts in terms of your audience split. You now need to take how you split your budget accordingly, but more importantly, even how you use the media too, creatively and constructively, which is very, very important. So I think for me, one of the things you did, you find out that in most home, many of us live our life more for the younger generation because everybody wants what is trending. Take for instance, in my own home, fan of Ukraine, and for me, research is not until when you commission a research outfit, even in your home, things are happening. Be observant, be careful because you are taking on research. I remember there was a time when, okay, I said, this brand is expensive, madam, buy the other brand. Immediately we bought it, my children abandoned that brand. And we are the one, they were feeling, not feeling, it got to a point where I was feeling guilty that we're not depriving them. Okay, what exactly do they want? We are second, give them what they want. So we have to concede to them. And you most home tend to do this thing to say, hey, what's the priority of the kids? We tend to prioritize them, we tend to give them what they want. More so, they equally need to have that sense of belonging among theirs, except it's something harmful. I think most brands tend to focus more on the younger generation. There's nothing like dying brands. No brand wants to grow old and die. So most people want to refresh. That's why you have cases of rebranding, re-strategizing, reskilling, because you always want to look fresh. So the focus is always on the younger audience because they will be the one to grow into that
Right.
model. So and young ones,
But would
everybody
they
wants
not
to.
be losing the old
No,
ones?
they
If
won't
the
be losing.
market
They
is
won't be. Even the old
also
one wants to
large.
be young these days. This is why we are. And for me, it's a simple analogy. You see, when we are growing up, the likes of Professor Ebenezer Obi and Sonny Ade. I love my because those are things that our parents want. But these days, if you're a parent and you begin to do Obi and Sonny Ade, you don't have the likes of Burna Boy. Yeah. And for me, you
Yeah.
can see some smart high elite now when they do end of the year party. They make sure they
Exactly.
invite, yeah, they bring in the Sunny, they go and play, they equally bring in. But I think
Younger
one of the
ones.
persons that has done that successfully, okay, annually he does
Yeah,
that bringing. Because if you fail to
exactly.
do that, you lose your kids. They will
Mm,
leave the home for you. It's you and your
mm,
friend have your party. But
mm.
by bringing in the knife of Burna Boy's home, what do you have? You have a station even where friends of your kids will be clamoring to come to your house
Mm.
because that's what they are like. That's what they watch. And you find out that if you are part of Bear and Tony to any party across Gen Z, across generation, you find out that you see more audience with the
Exactly.
Burna Boy or Whiskey Dad. So it shows you where the pendulum. Even the younger ones are beginning to think, oh, let me be
Yeah.
refreshed. Nobody wants to grow.
Mm.
Everybody wants to continually refresh. And I always tell people, if only you can do 50% of what we do to brand, to ourselves as a person, you won't be the same person. Re-energize, repositioning yourself, rebranding yourself, retooling your outlook. People want that to say, you say you are 60. I'm not looking 60. The kind of vibe, the kind of vibe. And that's what keeps life going. You need to look fresh, you need to look young, you need to be able to tap into new energy and feed off it.
Mm. That's good. And it's easy to say some of the brands that have stayed this long, these are some of the strategies that they've,
Absolutely. The
adopted just to
strategizing,
be.
rebranding, changing the color, changing and making sure that they are contemporary with what is moving, what is trending. You don't want to because, like somebody rightly said, like you are following the old people, why will you form them through? Oh, it's only to the grave. You don't want to go there yet, even though we know that that's the ultimate end, but you
Yeah,
still want to
but
keep it young and fresh within
exactly.
the manageable and reasonable as long as God gives you the power and the will. So,
All right, sir. To some other issue, many brands are finding it challenging to retain customer loyalty amidst fierce competition. What role does media strategy play in helping brands retain consumers?
yeah, I always tell people, I think there was this lecture I delivered recently. I said there's nothing like brand loyalty anymore. There's not like brand loyalty. People are only loyal to brands that continue to do what they like, that is keen into their passion. But you see, when we are growing up, that home is only this brand that we buy, and religiously, when it's not available, you don't even want to buy. But these days, the younger generation are radical. They are asking questions like I told you, what is this brand? Yes, I'm known this brand. What is it giving to us? Nothing. To hell. It's only when you came to that their passion point that they gravitate towards you. So brand needs to continually look for. Media has gone beyond just awareness. You must be able to develop creatively emotional connection points where you give people experience that ordinarily they wouldn't have gotten. Whether it's going to be music, whether it's Nollywood, what are the things that they like? You need to constantly research them. And I dare say that their needs or their desire keep changing per seconds. So you need to keep a close tab on them. And that's why for us, we come up with what we call consumer connection panel. To now do it connect. And it's not something we do quarterly, annually, or half yearly. It's something we do on monthly basis. You need to keep a close tab on this guy to say, hey, this is what they are interested at this point. What are the things that we can ascertain, that we can key into and creatively put in the media space that they find they will be happy and fulfilled, that will resonate very well with them, and they're able to key into it. And those are the things that brand needs to continually look for. You see, one of the brands now going into musical shows, and they're equally conscious of the kind of musical artists they bring in there. Because when you get people into that mode, I think I was fortunate to be one of those that launched one of the telco brands here in Nigeria. And I recall clearly it was during the early days of telco, and we had an event somewhere in Port Harcourt where P Square Paul and this thing they performed. And lo and behold, it was the middle of the night because they performed from around 10 to 2 a.m. And you could see students dancing in the rain. It was raining. Many of them just were not even bothered. And the guy was still playing on. And you could see many of them removing their former SIM card and joining that particular telecom there and then. And they were giving it to them free because that's their portion point. At that portion point, you take ownership of them. And once you take personal share of them, you can ask them to do whatever. But first, you must be able to connect to them, you must be able to key to their past. It's all about positioning. Positioning is not what you do to the product, it's what you do to people's mind. And if you're able to capture their mind, even your enemy, for you.
But how do you do this as a brand without losing your identity? Because you said now that you do this every month, put up this strategy just to ensure you remain in the mind of the consumer.
Of
But
course.
how will a brand remain, loyal, to their own vision and their own identity? Will they not be lost in
Well, for
between
me, the first thing you
while
have
trying
to
to transit?
whatever vision you come up with must be in tandem with what the consumer wants, because ultimately that's why your bread and butter will come. So whatever is not their desire is for you to see how you creatively align it without losing your own identity. You know what I am? I'm Yinka Adebayo for crying out loud. But where I need to behave like a Jensi, it doesn't really take away that name, Yinka Adebayo. How do you now bring Yinka Adebayo as a brand? in conjunction with that Gen Z behavior. That, yeah, it still goes away. People say, oh, that is Yinka, Gen Z here. And you see, the beauty of life is so that where you wear the cap of the lower or the higher class, at the end of the day, people just wonder, how does it fit in? That's the dynamism that needs to be brought to the play right now. You need to do it creatively, constructively, and it's always better to be prepared. So you get to plan it ahead, to see it ahead, and be constructive in your engagement. So that's why research is important. Get to know what the others are looking for, what they are looking for. How do we creatively associate with it without compromising our standard, our quality? I think give you a practical example of what we all know. And I think I was opportune to be at the forum where we are discussing about the issue of Big Brother, and the publication said, "Oh, because of my moral value, I'm a business publication. I'll never be associated with this." Now, you see, in life, when you close your mind, you also close your eyes. You don't see opportunity because you close your mind. Between me and you, yes, you are a business publication, morally upright, no problem. Maybe you see Big Brother as being immoral, but have you looked at the business side of Big Brother to say, hey, how do you look at that business that does not in any way erode your own equity, but you're equally there to say, hey, imagine a situation where a business publication comes up with a business report that says clearly analyzing the business opportunity embedded in that program. When you see brand about 10, 15, 20 brands operating on a platform, there must be something in it. Have you look at the business angle, even if it's not even if it's just the numbers you are speaking to? That's your role. That's your role as a business publication. And associating with that platform, picking out the numbers alone doesn't take away anything from it. And in anything in life, whatever is good will always have its bad side. It depends on what you want.
Given the global economic uncertainty, how are brands adjusting their media budget, and what strategies are you adopting to deliver impactful campaigns with tighter budgets? Yeah, it's OMG weaker.
Interesting. Well, it's been challenging, I must confess. And of course, for most organizations, the knee-jerk reaction has always been A&P budget will always suffer. Because when there are things like that, the question is to take out the A&P budget so that the bottom line can look attractive. But at least one of the things we've been doing is equally to constructively engage our clients to say, hey, this is not the best time to take your leg off the pedal. Because you see, crisis will always remain the best platform for a good manager to excel. So when there's a crisis situation, while some people will be faced with the headwind, there are some equally have the opportunity of getting the tailwind, and that can actually shove them to the level where they don't expect. So really, the global recession, yes, is a challenge for everyone, but it's not the time to really take off your leg off the pedal totally, because the danger in that is the fact that the level of awareness. We said something about these days. For this generation, out of sight is out of mind. Like I said, I don't know who that is. So if you are not seen, you are not known. If they don't feel your presence, your absence will not be felt. So, meaning that you need to be in their midst. All you can do is probably to see how, yes, reduce the threshold. There's a minimum threshold that must be maintained in terms of awareness level so that you are not totally out of there. Because when you are out of there, you are out of sight, you are out of mind, you are ultimately out of pocket. The limited resources that they have, whether they like it or not, they must spend. The question is limited as that resources is. How do I ensure that as a brand, I'm taking my own portion of it no matter how little? Because that's the only thing that can survive me, that can sustain me throughout this crisis period. So that when the boom comes back, we'll have something to fall back on. But imagine where you take the leg totally off the pedal. You are more or less like invariably digging your own grave, because what they don't see, they won't buy. So immediately they don't see you, they won't buy you. And imagine where the situation where the recession period now gets over. So that means you need to ramp up. So now the awareness that you've created over time, you now need to ramp up to be able to generate it. Our advice to clients is to say, hey, keep it minimal. We won't be totally out, but let's keep it and be creative and constructive about it in a way that there's a way you can actually use the media place in a way where you can actually stagger your plans that give people the impression that you are there every time. Meanwhile, you are just being tactical to be there. So you are not totally lost. And I think to a large extent, many of our clients have been listening to us. For some smart one, and they listen to us to say, hey, imagine during one of the greatest crisis period we've had was during the lockdown. And interestingly for you, some of our brands actually spend even the most during that period. I can say that for
Really?
Telecom. Yes. Indomie was everywhere. They had the liberty to say, hey, people should, nobody's moving. There was no movement, but because we're a food brand, keep moving. And they
Those are
maximize that.
essentials. How about the non-essentials?
Yeah, one of the non-essential is maybe okay. You can say that's the essential, but it depends on how you position your product. You can make it essential. IPO during that period, many people would have thought IPO was not an essential period, but they made it essential by now showing people. We even launched products in the midst of that crisis. That was when we launched other variants or other SKUs of IPO and letting them know that IPO can help you clean the germs that you are trying to prevent. It can come in handy. Many people would have, nobody would have thought of that, but it was creatively done. We spent so much money, we created the awareness. Even during that period, IPO had to reduce budget by 50% so that more people can buy and be sure that you are safe. Because our ability to keep, and that's part of the emotional concern I'm talking about. Our ability to see you after this crisis is dependent on we ensuring that you are survive.
Safe.
So we reduce our price for you so that you can, so that you are safe, so that look at where we are today. And no surprise that IPO top of the range. Those are some creative ideas that which you use space, you take advantage of situation. During that period, many brands run away. Even brand that would have been relevant during that period took their leg off the pedal. Everybody was at home, seated at home. But because you're able to position yourself. Now, I mentioned something about positioning earlier. Positioning is not what you do to the product, it's what you do to people's mind.
Right.
And if you are able to capture people's mind very well, even your enemy will fight for you.
So you're in support of brand cutting down, but not
Totally
taking
taken
off
off.
those
You
ones.
see, this issue of cut down, we need to, you see, we abuse word, particularly in this market. There are some brands that are not even spending before. Don't period they say they are cutting down. They don't want to cut their fingers. They were not even spending, they were not even visible when the economy was buoyant. So what are you cutting down? So for smart brands who have always been there, if you are doing 70% before, maybe you want to reduce it to 50 or 40 to see make sure so that when the period is over, you can just ramp up. You are not starting from ground zero. That ground zero starting up there with the current generation, with the current TG, the Gen Zs, those are radical people. They don't have time. So you really need to be on
Cutting
top
to
of
50,
it.
60, would you even, with the economic challenges, with the 50% of, back then be compared to 50% of...
Yeah, might not necessarily be compared to, but the level, even the level of cluster that you had then too has equally reduced anyway. So if I need to do 10 sports to gain visibility before, because there's nobody there anyway, even if I do 5 now, I'll have that same level of visibility. And that's why for us as media practitioners, it's important for us to stay close to the media we buy. There are some stations that are just running, they don't have commercials. So if I put one spot in there, I'm making big impact. I'm being celebrated because I'm the only one they are saying for that day. But the question is the buyer or the client, are they aware? That's some strategic move that you make because I've studied that station. You don't have anything anyway. So me coming on your station and even raising my voice alone shows clearly I'm ahead of others. Meanwhile, in the past, I probably would have ramped up to about 5 or 6 spots to even get noticed or seen in the first place. So those are some strategic and tactical moves. So those who are buying media need to be close to the media they buy.
All right, now, what do you see as the biggest technological shifts that will impact media investment and advertising over the next 5 years? So, or let's say even 2 years, because like you said,
Yeah.
change.
I think,
the
well,
space
for
of
me,
selling.
I think technology keeps evolving every in different area. But one of the major one I see coming and it's going to be a major shift
In your industry.
in our industry. Yeah, it's going to be a major shift is the AI. And for me, it's very relevant. It's very important for us to begin to see how we maximize that to advantage, using it to actually tap into extracting more information about the audience that we speak, that we seek to address. How do we use it to unveil the consumers? How do we seek to understand what exactly are the thought process of the consumers? How do we unveil them without their knowing it? There's a part, and that's the thing here. It's just an enabler. It enables you to say, hey, if something has been happening repeatedly, let's automate it now. So meaning everybody, for every consumer you see, there's a particular way they behave. How are we getting that information to be able to use it to advantage? And I think it's going to shape a whole lot. So meaning enable us to keep a close tab on the consumer and begin to be able to see ahead and plan ahead and get prepared so that we are not caught unawares. It's going to be the game changer. And the earlier we tap into that aspect of technology, it's going to help us to shape the industry because the kind of challenge facing our clients these days is something that has never happened before. Nobody ever said that dollar is going to go to where it is. So if that is the challenge facing your client, I also belong to the school of thought that says if there's a challenge that is keeping your client awake for a night, that challenge should be enough to keep you awake for months. So meaning the solution we need to grab to say, hey, these are the top potential of our consumer. These are the things I think we need to start shaping right now doing right now to be able to prepare so that when we get to that point, or even you are ahead of others, ahead of the pack, to really continue to deliver value to the consumer.
On AI that you mentioned, just as an afterthought, many have also, many have expressed their fear about the credibility of most strategies, considering the abuse, the overuse of AI when it comes to media planning. What's your take on this? Do you see AI as a threat
I
to?
don't say that's a share. It's just for you to be a bit designing, a bit more like everything that has its good side, that is has its bad side. But for you to, you equally need to know what you want, be able to ask the right question. But more importantly, even when you guys, you see, I always tell people, when you get data and when you get information, there's always a story behind the number. Unless you understand the story behind the number, you are most unlikely to use it creatively, constructively, meaningfully, and collaboratively. So you need to know the story behind the number. AI will just give you the information based on what has been fed in. But when you're not subject to say this is what has been seen, how relevant is this to my own social economy? How relevant is this to my brand? How relevant is it to the target audience? So meaning on the spot assessment, you don't take it to client sinker. You still subject it to some fine tuning and all of that, so that you begin to know what to fine tune, what you begin to tweak without losing your own identity, without compromising on your objective, and making sure that you don't lose your audience so in the process. It calls for a great deal of analytical work.
Okay, sir. Okay, so now how um, we go straight to measuring the effectiveness of advertising. And this has always been a major challenge, especially in developing markets. How is OMG Wika addressing the issue around media measurements and return on investment in any campaign?
Yes, I
Are
think
there
for us,
metrics or
of course,
things?
yes, the data might not be where it is, but thank God we have what we use, which of course is the proprietary provided by media planning services. We are able to have a projection. What are the plans? What level of GRP you plan to achieve? Then what is achieved at the end of the day? You are able to assess. But more importantly is the fact that there is a whole lot of data that tends to fly around without us being able to keep hold on them. Meaning, being close to the market is also important for us, and that's why we used to we interact with our clients with a view to extracting information about things about the brand tracker report. What is this saying? What are the areas that we need to focus on? How is the brand impacting? Yes, people are aware of your brand. What is the source of such awareness to even know that what we are doing in the media space is actually
Having an
delivering the.
effect.
So the GRP is not just GRP on paper. It's actually the GRP that is speaking to the right audience and delivering the value to client. I think there's a case where a client told us, oh look, I'm not feeling the buzz of this cafe. We took it off in less than 1 month, ran back. Say you're not advertising anymore. Oh, so you people are seeing it. I never knew you saw it. So those are the kind of things. So meaning that for many of us, really, this market is still a developing market. So we need to take close to the audience and have the ability. I always say we have the ability to hear what is not said and see what is not obvious. You see, when you go to some development, if you give them a questionnaire to fill, they'll tell you what they feel wholeheartedly. Say, but here, there's still some level of subjectivity. Here you get, if you give people option, what brand do you consume? There are some premium brands that look at the tendency is that even though they consume the lower brand, they might tell you that, oh, I consume the premium brand just to look hip and all of that. But it's not for
Yeah.
you to say, hey, this person says, what's your income? How did they buy? And go to the extra mile to really unmax them. And that's why it's taking close to the ball. There are cases where some of our clients even go to market to really observe what people are really purchasing. So in addition to give you the questionnaire, they are sure that what you are saying is actually in tandem and be able to extract facts. It's a difficult thing in this market, but it's something that you need to constantly do. And you don't do it by just being armchair media planner or buyer. You need to get close to the market,
But
stay close to
shouldn't
it.
there be technology around this to make this more?
Well, even the normal technology we have is they operating on globally with the infrastructural challenges and all of that. Yes, we'll do what
Okay.
we can with technology, but still subject that technological findings to some on-the-spot assessment. And what that does for you, it enables you to be able to understand what I said earlier, the story behind the story behind the number. Data will be there to show you direction. How you navigate it is totally yours, and that's where understanding the story behind the numbers comes in handy.
We've heard some media planning agency, boast of measurement and effectiveness of their own campaign, and why also accusing some of blowing up the figures. Do you think we have some of this issue within the agencies,
Well, it's not impossible, but bring
among
up.
other competing agencies
Well,
like yours?
between me and you, this is news to me because I'll be sure. Why do you want to blow up the figure? Why you blow it for? Can you blow up my account? What is the beauty of an advert that people see and is not reflecting in my bank account? If your client is in that account, and we can measure it by the number of brands that have survived. Why some are selling up in this market, some are buying up. So we should know where the strength lies now. There are some things, there are some lies. Yes, maybe you can use it as a short gap, but on the long run, the truth will be unveiled right now. If you are really selling, it must resonate in the brand. You must resonate very well. So I think for me, really, whether you show up figure, and really that is a great disservice to the industry because when you show up, we are creating an impression that is not there. It's a great disservice to the brand because what they are supposed to take care of and address immediately, you are not making them to address it. It's better to look at the problem, let's unveil the problem, understand it and address it, rather than pushing it and dragging it out. If it doesn't hurt you now, be rest assured, down the line it will hurt
Even
you.
at the risk of losing the brand by telling them the truth and
Why even at the risk of losing the brand? The truth of
as
the
an
matter,
account within the
between me
agency.
and you, we've seen cases where account has moved from us because they believe they could get something better elsewhere. But I can tell you clearly that about five of those brands have come back. It's all about what you stand for. And you find out that when they're even coming back, they're coming back with better respect, better appreciation, better value. Because before, what you used to do, they say, "Oh, guys, I think we hold the hate right now. You advise us." Between now, and we hold them. We hold them because we continue to pass it along. The damage will come. When that doesn't come, it's not going to just affect the client, it's going to affect you as an agency. Our growth, our success is attached to the growth and success of that organization. So why should we be lying to each other? Paint the right picture, even at the risk of saying, "Hey, I don't believe," yeah, you might not agree, but that's the truth. You see, there's no news that is good or bad. How you handle it determine whether it is good or bad. When I'm presenting your position to you and say, "Hey, we are in this together," it's a more constructive engagement than say, "Yeah," when I say this is your problem. So when I'm telling you there's a problem that we need to address, you, I notice this client will listen to me because we are together. When I say, "I notice this is my problem," there are some agents that are good at just dropping problem without finding the solution. There are some challenges that is not ours, but we take it on. I just cited the example of Kellogg to you. When we done that challenge of Kellogg's scheme, I was the one that led the media talk. I'm not a PR firm, but it was a challenge
Yeah,
that
because
led
I
to.
wanted to ask,
Yes,
what's the
but
PR, what's the
yes,
role of PR in
yes,
this?
yes, the role of PR, but at that time they had no PR agency and they just got in a brand manager who was managing the brand, who probably, and they said, "You are more experienced." I'm okay, fine, no problem. I'll join the guy to go. Even as a media agency. So you need to go beyond boundary to make the client look like them. This is not your role, but you've got to sacrifice because his success is my success.
Just before I ask my last question, but among the numerous brands that you've come across and maybe manage or lose some, is there any particular brand that you'd have loved to have managed and is still not within your fold to date, even without
Mm.
mentioning names, and really putting efforts maybe at pitching for it, or you've once had it and
I don't think there's no sector that we've not played. Airline, banking, and all of that. We don't know a whole lot. But I think one of the key sector that's really coming, and that for me to really be that because when we are growing up, of course, the focus used to be on either FMCG or the beauty category. But those who are ruling the airwave right now are the fintech.
yeah, the
So that
fintech
shows the
is
role
from
of technology and all of that. I think we'll be glad to have one or two of such. We've had one before, but of course, for whatever reason, I'm trying to get them back on board. But I think fintech is one area to look at because the technological aspect, that's one that's ruling the world right now. And that's where the potential really is. That's where, and it's like in that sector, they meet money. And they meet
exactly,
money in there. So, and I think it's
exactly.
an attractive for any industry to focus on. So, yeah, we are the truth.
Okay, on a final note, which agency would you say is the best that stand out in media planning and strategy in Nigeria and maybe Africa at large?
Why are you giving me the question and answer? I would rather, you see, oftentimes for it's, everybody, they have their own capacity, they have their own strength, they have their own weakness, and that is the way it is in life. I think with a sense of modesty, we've done our own bit. We leave it to the industry to judge, we leave it to time to tell, and continue to focus on. So I think all the agencies are doing well, at least having survived and still surviving to today. I think I must give it to all of them. That means they must be doing one or two things right. For those who are not able to get it right, probably they've gone under the radar for now, which is quite unfortunate. But for those who are still staying afloat in this crisis situation, I think one must do his to them. Everybody is silent, every sector is silent. While some companies are closing up, some are actually opening up. And I think for those who are still keeping their heads above sea level, I think I do have my heart for them.
But you would adjourn your agency the best.
Well, I'll give it to you to
Yes.
judge. Let the voice of our work be louder than the voice of our person. Maybe that.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to skip this question, but I should ask because a lot of thoughts came when of blessed memory. I do keep talking about him, uh, Mr. Tulu Nkoya. A lot of commentary that at his demise, yeah, I mean, thank God there's been structure on ground. At his demise, the agency might be this, even though there were breaks in between those times before we had that experience. But what has how has it been running the agency? You've been here. How has it been running the agency in his absence, and what has kept you running to date?
Well, I think God bless his soul wherever he is, but I think Tulu is one leader that leads from the front. She get and he carries everybody along. So even while he was there, he keeps empowering. I personally recall a couple of things I tell us to say, guys, the reality. He normally challenged me and Alaba, who is now the RCO, to say, "Look, the experience of both of you is more than me. Whether I'm here or not, just keep it going. Just keep it going." And a couple of times he's traveled. There was a time he was equally appointed as the chairman of the audience by the federal government that took him to travel a whole lot. The business has always been running. So he's somebody who has actually empowered his report to say, "Hey guys, I can't do it all. It's a collective team, it's a collective spirit. So whether I'm here or not, just carry on. In the process, you'll make mistake. When we come back, we'll address that. The worst thing will tell you not to do is just to sit down and say you are waiting for Zulu. Get it done, do it. When we come back, if something has fallen through the rail, we'll get it back. But the greatest disservice you can do for this organization is to sit down, fold your hand, waiting for one person. No. So when he departed, so even though it was a painful one, it was honest, it was not expected. It was almost an emotionally wrecking experience. But I tell you that we're able to still hold our home. Not that for us, even for most of the clients, we're able to still hold them, happy to them. And today, we are still standing tall, and that's the only thing we owe him. Because for Tolu Ogunkoya that I know is somebody, even when the shifts are down, we want to keep going. Shege will tell you if nothing is chasing you, you chase something. Shege, and it's somebody who I'm sure wherever it is right now, it will be quite fulfilled to the way we've been able to help them and we'll be able to carry on even in his absence. And that shows clearly that he really empowered us to take on the mantle of leadership and get things going.
All right, this is where we draw the curtain on this edition of Let's Talk Brand and Business. I can assure you that we'll be back here to discuss more on media buying, strategy, and planning. Thank you very much for having us, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.